So do you two actually see each other anymore?
When was the last time we saw each other? July was a good month.
No, we've just celebrated our 20th wedding anniversary. We had 4 fantastic days up at Lizard Island, and we said to each other, you know, the fact that we could enjoy so much being together after 20 years is a fairly good sign.
It's a very good sign. Yeah.
But basically the other thing is I work from home and she works in the early morning, so most days, 3 days out of 5 of the week we have lunch together.
And the house looks to be fully functional again, no foots through floorboards.
It is a Lisa Wilkinson special in the sense that every square inch inside and out has been pretty much done by her, and I would say I get 2% of the time I say, actually no, this is what I want. It's her great passion. I love living in it, but her great passion is organising it.
Can I tell you a story? Because you, after having come and visited us, it was 1999, and you were sitting over on the sandstone step over there, and our little boy at the time, Louis, was 3 years of age, and he'd been running and jumping and playing around while all the cameras were doing what they did, and we'd done our interviews. This was the final interview, and it was like Louis suddenly woke up, and he knew that this person, Burke, was coming, and he suddenly woke up and looked around and said to us, "Which one is Burke?"
You talk to Mr. Burke, right?
Manners are very important, aren't they, Louis?
Which one is Burke?
That's me. That's me here.
And it's just the way he said it. So, who's this person that's totally interrupted my play day? And, you know, we did the proper introduction to you, and it's been a running gag in this family for 13 years, and recently we got a Cocker Spaniel, and we thought there's only one name that we can give this dog, and its name is Burke. When we came here, which is now coming up to 14 years ago, there was a lot of great established trees, beautiful camellia bushes and some morayas, some magnolias. Basically, like the house, there was great bones and great structure, but everything was tired. It had sat here for 100 years, and only 2 families had ever owned the house. The original gentleman, Mr. Crossman, who commissioned the house, and then Dr. Brown bought it in 1951, and we came along.
And I might say it was quite interesting. Dr. Brown, I think, was 86 years old and had been living here for close on 50 years when we did the negotiations, and he only really wanted to deal with me. He was a gentleman of his era, and we had in the negotiations, he named a figure, and I named a figure, and he said, "Son, you know, my figure is the only figure that counts." And I said, "Sir, I could get to your figure if I absolutely hocked everything I've got, and I stood on absolute tippy toes. I could probably just get to your figure." And he said, "Son, you have no," and I said, that's the other thing. I said, "Look, and I'd have to work 6 days a week, and I'd have to start at 6 and I'd have to go to midnight." And he gave me a great answer. He said, "Son, you have just named the way I have worked for the last 50 years. If you want to live in this house, that's the way you've got to work." I said, "Sure, I'll buy it." I'm the youngest of 7 children, and all of both my mother and my father and my brothers and sisters, they all know all about plants, and somehow or other I really wouldn't know a eucalyptus or a deciduous tree if it bit me on the bottom.
And just when I think I've finished a particular part of the garden, Pete will suddenly put his head up after he's just finished his latest book usually and say, "I'm an orange farmer's son, and I'm going to make a veggie patch." Now, we've been down this track about 6 times, Don, and every single time he's fantastic for the first 2 weeks.
But to be fair,
and then the coriander goes to seed,
no, to be
and
fair,
he loses interest.
This time it is working. My father, in his life, grew perhaps 10 million oranges. There, my friends, is my first.
Strawberry.
That's my first strawberry.
But it's a house that we enjoy and we want others to enjoy. So most weekends you'll find a house full of teenagers and passing FitzSimons and Wilkinson who just happen to be dropping in.
Now, to me, your career, Lisa, at the moment is a fascinating one in that television and all of the media is a fragile, ephemeral sort of thing. It changes and flows with the wind. But you're running the raft with Carl, which underpins the stability of the network, and that must be a very satisfying job to have.
Oh, honestly, it is such a privilege to host that show. You know, 3.5 hours, 5 days a week of really welcoming people into the day, and you know, being there so often when there is breaking news going on?
If we were to win, not that we go in the lottery, but let's just say there was a bequest to us of $100 million, so that financial considerations were no longer a part of working out what we want to do with our day. The truth of it is, you would turn up to work on the Monday morning. You know, you don't actually want to be, there's no other job in Australia that you get as much satisfaction out of. And I would want to finish my next book. I probably wouldn't do the book, and I'd want to be working for the Sydney Morning Herald, and I'd want to be doing speeches and whatever. And so the point being that we're very blessed and very lucky, and
it's not lost on us.
And it is not lost on us,
and
it's something that it's a great privilege to be working. The line of Lisa's that I particularly love is find a job that you love, and you'll never work again.
I love your books.
Thank you.
I love the way you can dig into Australian history and tell us about our things and who we are.
Yeah, and well, I must say I love researching them, and I must say before I started that book, you and I would have known just as much about Eureka Stockade. What was it? Big stockade, you know, men in red coats coming with bayonets, and I think the bayonets won the day, and our guys fell back. And so I go into it not knowing much more than that, and you go into it, and the best thing with a book is if you go into it, you go, they did what? That's fantastic. And the thing for me about this, I had no idea that what this actually was the flowering of democracies. Because of the Eureka Stockade, Australia was at the forefront of democracy throughout the world for the next 50 years. It was absolutely ground zero for multiculturalism in Australia. It was a multicultural gathering. When Peter Lalor, the hero, stood on the stump and said, raise your right hand, and they all rose the right hand, pointed to the flag, we swear by the Southern Cross and by each other to fight truly to defend our liberties. Magnificent words. And Lalor said when he was up there, he says, I look out, and there was no race, there was no creed, no religion. We were men united by our desire for liberty. I mean, the words are magnificent. It's a story that really has everything, and for me, it fires up my Australianness somehow.